Welcome to this webcast of Commercial Excellence Month live from Vendavo. This is covering 4 weeks. We've got 17 sessions and over 27 speakers. And mentioning speakers, with me today, Ramesh Billa. He's our North American Director for Value Consulting. He's got over 22 years of professional expertise in pricing strategy through execution initiatives, a ton of experience back with Deloitte and Accenture. Aiden is our European Director of Value Consulting at Vendavo. He's got over 18 years of professional experience. He has a ton of experience with PwC, IBM, and of course now Vendavo. Aiden, Ramesh, thanks for joining us today.
Sure.
Thanks for having us.
You bet. And of course, I'm Mitch Lee, the Prophet, as you've probably seen me in your email inbox, but today I'm just happy to be your humble host. All right, a couple of housekeeping items that we need to cover off. First of all, our obligatory disclaimer. Effectively, what we're talking about today is, of course, subject to change. Really exciting to put this up for everyone. We launched our latest solution, Margin Bridge Analyzer, late last month, and during Wednesday's Commercial Excellence session, we reviewed the capabilities, had an on-demand demo, and that on-demand session will be available very, very soon. But fundamentally, we're really excited to be able to offer 6 months free subscription. Now, we've opened this up to everyone. There are some qualifying requirements, of course, so please reach out to your account manager or reach out to us directly at vendavo.com. But Margin Bridge Analyzer is about flexible causality capabilities built for enterprise level requirements. It's exactly what you need to quickly, reliably, and repeatedly get data-driven insights for action. All right, on Q&A, we will be doing Q&A, of course. During this session, we'll be gathering those up. If you have questions that you think of along the way, go ahead and use that Zoom functionality. Those questions will only go to the panelists. We'll look at those, and as many as possible, we'll address at the end. If we're not able to get to your question, we'll reach out to you afterwards with an answer and let you know what's going on. All right, let's take a look at the upcoming events. Beginning next week, Commercial Excellence Month will turn to having a special emphasis on the Vendavo community. We're going to focus on customer-only interactive sessions. On Monday, we're going to be looking at the CPQ discussion and taking it to the next level. Jordan Hahn and Jose Fontanez of our Cloud Services Group will be getting into the nuts and bolts of the Vendavo CPQ Cloud solutions. On Tuesday, Carl Larson and Sjoerd van Kessel, our Commercial Excellence strategists, will be talking through the ins and outs of Vendavo Price Point. And on Wednesday, Rob Verboom, Ben Blaney, Kamal Sabnani, and I will be talking through the current and planned capabilities for our commercial intelligence clouds in terms of analytics and optimizations. Now, all of these customer-focused sessions are going to be discussions of real market solutions to real market problems. And of course, we are sending links for on-demand view of these sessions. If you've registered, you'll get an email with links and recaps a few days after. And of course, you can always check back to our website. We're posting these event links there as they become available for on-demand viewing. The events, of course, run through the end of the month. You can use the scan code there you see on your screen to register, or just head over to vendavo.com to register or catch up on anything you might have missed. But before we go to today's discussion, I want to set a framework a little bit. Let's talk about what this month-long event does and how it fits into what's happening right now. In our first week of Commercial Excellence Month, we had a panel discussion on how to accelerate recovery with a great set of thought leaders, including Stefan Liazou. We had a review of Vendavo performance and a commercial strategy and our product roadmap review. We also talked about pricing concepts for action in the C-suite and a discussion with a longtime Vendavo customer on their success on moving into the cloud. We closed week 1 with actions for pricing in disruptive environments, again with Stefan Liazou. This week, we've looked at dynamic pricing and dynamic circumstances, how Vendavo Customer Services helps move you from simple implementation concerns to real business outcomes. We debuted our demo of our latest solution, VMBA, for truly flexible causality. And yesterday, we turned to our CPQ solutions and the fact that a capital P CPQ is truly the ultimate pricing execution solution. Now, across all these topics, we talked about how things are different. These sessions were originally set to be face-to-face in person as part of our ongoing program of building a community to drive commercial excellence. Just like you, we've had to pivot to continue to deliver value to our community in these turbulent times. And the community that we're talking about here, of course, is you, the pricers, the sales leaders, the P&L owners that are responsible for sustainable profitability, recognizing that there's a ton of internal challenges and a ton of externalities that have to be considered as we work together to create optionality, meaning growth and investment in the businesses. To frame our thinking in these turbulent times, we're using a 3-phase framework. Now, people are discussing the shape of the curve. Is it a W, a V, an L? I hear a lot of people talking right now about the Nike swoosh. The idea here is not so much the shape, but to organize perspectives in terms of what actions need to be taken, what needs to be done today, tomorrow, and in the future. So if we look at the first phase, that's disruption. I think we're all familiar with that term, that concept. The unforeseen happens and you have to deal with the issues that are requiring immediate attention. Then that pace slows a little bit and you're repeating how you address those immediate problems with what you've learned. You're doing those things 2 or 3 more times. That's becoming the new normal. And then the difficult part, you need to look for the shift. And if it's the slow improvement trend indicated by the swoosh symbol, it's going to be harder to recognize when that shift begins for you and your organization, because it's more than surviving a crisis. It's about being ready to thrive. Yes, you need to manage through that, but more importantly, you need to work to adapt yourself and your organization for what's on the other side of the new normal. That's the transformation phase, and that's the basis for thriving on the other side. And that's why we're working on commercial excellence. For this month-long event, it boils down to this. We're all connecting in different ways. These sessions are now virtual, but the objectives are the same, and certainly with a greater sense of urgency. So let's get started with today's topic. What we're going to be talking about today is value consulting, customer success stories, and really how you can think about to get more return on investment from your Vendavo investment. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Aiden.
Great, thanks, Mitch. So with Value Consulting now well into its 2nd year at Vendavo, we're having a lot of good conversation with our customers and prospects alike, but predominantly about the use of our software to create that margin uplift. So here are some of the typical questions we're asked day to day, and you can see that very few are actually to do with the technology, far more with the people and the process, and that's because your businesses are about the expertise of your people and the efficiency and effectiveness of your business processes, not just the supporting systems. State-of-the-art technology can and does improve business, but only when it's a fit with the environment and is adopted by the intended users. So if we jump to the next slide, please, Mitch. So it's not just us saying this, it's Management Today, numerous other studies. We've got New Vantage here as well. They're saying that the majority of technology-related projects are failing to realize the benefits they originally set out to get. And the challenge is not in the technology. Of course, there's challenge in technology. It's not straightforward, but even with that flawlessly implemented, state-of-the-art technology flawlessly implemented, it can still fall down when the surrounding business context hasn't been taken into consideration, the people and the processes. So why are a technology company like ourselves focusing on this part? Well, perhaps Ramesh, I've spoken enough for now in the intro. You can pick up on that one.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Aiden. Thanks, everyone. So where should I start? Since our inception around 20 plus years ago, we now have 200 plus customers, huge knowledge database that we accumulated and developed over years, and built a robust commercial transformation excellence framework with leading practices across multiple industries. Now, we developed a methodology outlined here in a 4-phase approach, as you can see on screen. As part of assessment and discovery, we use different tools to assess the current state of business. That might include historical margin analysis that gives the detail of price volume mix. And certainly the second part of that assessment phase is like more opportunity assessment, which is the size of the price, and then the maturity assessment, which also includes the current state of the business where you are with respect to the industry standards. Finally, the outcome of entire exercise from step one of the phase one is to bring in a transformation roadmap that can drive you to the success. Certainly, this, when we move into the next step or the next phase, designing and building the strategy aligned into price and margin improvement opportunities that maximize the benefits. Certain key tasks of this phase are like goal setting, planning appropriately, conducting the fit gap analysis, process design effort, and enabling and implementing the solution capabilities. So the third step, as part of this wheel that you're seeing, the leading practice methodology here, is delivering the results with execution capabilities. That may include our state-of-the-art tools like deal price guidance that may spit out floor target and guidance and stretch prices as guidance tightly integrated into our intelligent CPQ solution or any third-party coding applications. So the last but not the least, the optimization. Yes, now I have the delivery capabilities and we have delivered and deployed it. How do we optimize the stuff? So as part of optimizing the outcome of this exercise, we follow through an iterative approach that includes tracking, measuring, reporting, enhancing the capabilities and processes across people, process, and technology. So as a whole, this is the methodology as a value consulting team we bring to the table to improve and uplift your margins and show the value. Aidan?
Thank you very much, Ramesh. So let's just make this tangible. Here we see a very simplified software deployment plan. And traditionally, this might have been the project plan for the project. And all the fluffy business stuff can be managed at the end, UAT, maybe a bit of requirements up front, but predominantly it was about the technology. But if we add in a layer, if we go to the next slide, thanks, Mitch. So if we look at and consider a business transformation workstream, you can see that all of these activities on the top are things that you would expect to be done. You would expect to be part of a successful implementation, but can be missing in some traditional and unfortunately still present deployments of software. And that is where, without this parallel work stream, companies are really running the risk of ROI failure. So what I'd like to do, and Ramesh will join me in this, is to walk through our wheel of our process and just look at each section. And again, to bring it to life, we want to talk about real life examples where we have worked on some of these activities with our customers. So I'll kick it off with assessments, and I'm going to talk about one of our customers who's a multi-billion-dollar building solutions company, and specifically, I'm going to talk about the part that the Value Consulting team played on this account. So it was a Vendavo price point implementation, and we were engaged really to help evangelize about pricing. They're building commercial excellence practice. They're building specifically in pricing. They're pushing hard to mature their capabilities in pricing. And that takes a lot of convincing. That takes a lot of change management. And some of the best way to get your message across internally is to do it in a quantitative, evidence-based way. And so by performing some deep dive analytics, working with their team and collaborating to co-create the financial quick wins that we could find, the margin leakage, the price increase opportunities, we could really quantify a business case. Here are just some of the hypotheses that we used, and you can see the scale of the numbers. This is just a single business unit, and we were able to just draw on the low risk, conservative, low value accounts, but just to bring those in line with the value that they brought to this company, by getting rid of the tail of price variation, by increasing the premiums on slow moving products, by eliminating low margin or negative margin transactions. We were able to show a significant and achievable opportunity And that really helped with not just to convince users of the overall program and to increase the adoption and take up of the solution, but also if we jump to the next slide, if you look at this in slightly different perspective, you can see that by far the greatest area of opportunity was in the customer discounting. And what this did was this allowed us to influence an in-flight project in terms of where the priority was, where the focus of our customers' time went on the project, where the investment in extensions or rollout or scope could all be influenced by the value, because ultimately what's going to give you the biggest return for the investment you're making.
Aidan, I would just want to chime in here real quick. I think this is really impressive in terms of, we say assessment, but what do you get out of doing an assessment? And here you've got, this is one BU, so it's a tight scope in terms of focusing on what that BU does. And you came up with 4 really meaningful, tangible actions to be taken here and quantify them. And so this is not like a laundry list of 1,000 things to do and death by 1,000 cuts. These are 4 things here and one really big thing that may or may not have different degrees of capability in terms of actually making a change of it. But you've identified things that can be done. This is really crisp, really crystalline, really impressive.
Yeah, and one of the nicest things about this exercise, and one of the reasons I love this area of the business now, is that this makes what used to be traditionally a cost, consultants, licenses, projects, all those costs now become a revenue stream. This pays for the project up front and more. And so it really makes the focus on what you're doing the forefront of everyone's mind, rather than looking at the watch, looking at the budget, looking at the timetable.
Derive some action, drive some priorities. Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. All right, on to the next segment. So talking about strategy. So the example I'm going to give here is to do with maturity, commercial excellence maturity. So many of you will have taken our commercial excellence maturity survey, and it's great insight into our business, and it gives us that market intelligence. But we also use that to help our customers. So by performing a more in-depth version of that maturity assessment on our customers, we're able to really pinpoint exactly where they are on our maturity scale. In fact, Mitch, let's jump to the next slide so I can introduce the maturity scale for anyone who hasn't seen it. It's, if you could just jump to the, yeah, perfect. So we're looking across a number of dimensions, and we're looking at people, process, data, tooling, and we're looking across these customer, product, pricing, sales, and analytics channels from left to right, looking at where people sit, where companies sit in this maturity assessment. And by doing this analysis, like I say, we can plot where they are, but we can also plot, we can also target where they need to be. So sorry, Mitch, to jump back. Can we go back to the case study?
Of course.
And so with this customer, we're able to identify where not just they were as a company, but where each region was. So this particular instance, they had one region, the North American region, had implemented or commissioned a third-party consultancy to produce a pricing model for them, some very advanced rules-based pricing, and really, really good stuff, really high value, but highly theoretical work. And it was deployed quite tactically in that region, but it had left the other regions behind. So the systems were all very disparate. The reporting was impossible across the lot. So what we did was we took a look at each of these regions, each of the business units in the regions, and produced a maturity assessment of their complete as-is state. We then worked with the region leads to plot where they needed to be, and not where they wanted to be. We were very keen to not draw on where people's interests or personal desires led, but where they needed to be. And so if we can jump forward 3 slides, please, Mitch. Perfect. We looked at the collation of our results from our well over 250 survey respondents, and pinpointing their specific industry, even anonymously, but pinpointing their close competition to see where were their average scores in each region compared to the market. And what this does is it stops you from over-investing where you don't need to. It also makes sure that you understand where you need to be, and can put some urgency in certain areas. And the other angle we can give to this, if we jump to the next slide, please, is also looking at where we as a team measure the most value. This is captured value by capability area, and we can really fine-tune that target, maturity target, by looking at where's the biggest return. All of this is about the return. All of this is about that margin uplift. And so if we can pinpoint where our biggest return is going to be, that again can influence this, and you can really identify where you need to be. And then last but not least, so you know where you are, you know where you want to be, how do you get there? And we will work with these, we continue to work with this customer to plot that path from where they are now to where they need to be. And we are working with them. And again, it's not just about technology. Technology is the enabler. It's about the people, it's about the process. So it's the change management, it's about the adoption improvement.
Well said, Aidan. You know, I would want to point out for folks listening in that there's a lot of tools out there, assessment tools out there. We have one where we have one online that folks can do. The 200 plus samples that we have are largely that online one where you can go through in about 10 or 15 minutes, answer questions, and come up by assessing with some pretty good descriptions, assessing your performance against those characteristics that we say this is really, really mature and optimized. This is maybe starting off and unstructured yet, and get a quick readout in terms of a particular person's familiarity. You can do that in different BUs or different regions of the company. But we also have, probably more importantly to the delivery of the value and getting precise and granular again, is a more sophisticated maturity assessment that is more in depth, more questions, and gets more granular, and really starts driving some of those questions that and areas of focus that you get to with that assessment that you had at the beginning. So great levels of depth here for people to draw on, and for us to be able to work with our clients, our customers, to make sure that they are getting the most out of their investment.
All right. So Ramesh, I'll hand over to you for the rest of the wheel.
Yep. Hey, thanks. Thank you, Aidan. Back to the wheel. And I want to talk about one of our clients where we went through the entire exercise from assessment through optimization, and specifically emphasizing on delivery and optimization phases of the project, and how we engaged with the customer to show that uplift and return on investment. If you can go to the next slide. So this is one of our key distribution customers, went live a year ago, and solutions that we implemented are Segmentation Manager and Price Optimization Engine, which spits out the floor, target, and stretch prices. Profit Analyzer, Business Risk Alerts are the 3 major products that we implemented for this customer. And we had our Vendavo Value Consulting Team engaged in order to walk them through the process. And certainly we had, as you can see, the results on screen, 5.5% return on sales with over $5 million benefit. And there is a little bit of a deeper dive on the next screen, but to start with, how we, when the Value Consulting Team has been engaged with this customer and shown that benefit to them. They have 12 different divisions directly tied with each geography, multiple geographies. And each geography consists of different sales districts and different branches underneath each of those sales districts. That's the context or scope of this implementation. And then different channels that we engaged with as part of this customer is residential, commercial, contractors, small mom and pop shops. So as you can see on the screen, right, what did we bring to the table? Yes, we did bring in the leading practices methodology, which you have seen that from the wheel standpoint, assessment through optimize, which is our value consulting methodology. And then underneath, where we were highly engaged is 3 major work streams to build a plan for success, which is that strategy, program management, value realization, and change management. Those are the 3 different work streams where we have been heavily engaged with this customer to drive that value. And underlying business case, which gets us the buy-in from the stakeholders. As you can see, we started with the highest scope, which is a $5 million. And then we tried to tailor down based on our internal discussions with the customer into $1 billion. Now that's 20% of the actual total revenue we started with, involving the stakeholders, getting some business context, and understanding the buy-in, where their pain points are. So underlying scope as part of strategy, strategically, we want to operationalize and prioritize where we should go after. And downline, as we move the story to the delivered part, technically they came up saying, okay, these are the 100 million, which is actionable from the analysis that we did on a $1 billion scope. And this is part of it. This is an iterative process. But what we want to show here is on that 100 million, we were able to show a value of return on sales of 5%. And then that turned into a $5 million benefit to their bottom line, which is almost close to 12 to 15% margin improvement on their current margins. So this is a story, which is a success story. And our experience suggests people and process needs to be part of any pricing implementation from the inception of that engagement. And some of the key learnings that we have come across from this particular global implementation is like business, IT, and leadership commitment is the first thing, and their insights into the current state of the business so that we can go after and define the strategy. Stakeholder analysis, some of the key activities that we performed there is like the stakeholder analysis, understand the commitment from the business as well as stakeholders to drive the change, not just at the inception, but deployment and beyond, right? That's where we want to look at it and make the plan. Probably the second step is while we are designing and building the strategy, it should tightly be integrated into execution. That includes both the price management, guidance, and the monitoring systems to track those benefits. Just like my counterpart, Aiden, has highlighted, technology plays the role to operationalize the pricing strategy, but it only takes you to a certain extent. It's the tools like deal price guidance or Vendavo or intelligent CPQ is what actually operationalizes those capabilities. But the people part, people buy-in, and people buying into the numbers that we come up with to support the business case is what makes it as a success. And we highly recommend, right, spending upfront time to get that agreement from various teams as part of the delivery. So when we plan it appropriately and when we move into that delivery phase, we are more positioned to success. Now, the third step is the delivering, right? When we ended up with this 100 million closely, right? We got now started with 5 billion, ended with a 1 billion scope. And then the opportunity size, we are talking about where the business has agreed is only 100 million. Now, closely working with the business on these actionable insights to surgically address those price changes. I think this is one of the toughest tasks, but basically what we can see on any implementation. And every client to client, it's very different, right? So the hardest part here, we observed here is the price overrides and exceptions. Most of the time, we come up with the price changes, we surgically want to implement the changes. So there should be a continuous communication, right? Very close interaction with the business and buy-in from the key field sales folks who are negotiating with the customer that has that training, discipline, like workflows and approvals, and upfront investment into new guidance price list and understanding those price lists and the margins, the margins that we have outlined in front of them are acceptable to everybody. So getting that business buy-in is where the people part comes in. Heavily engage in training them and making them understand what they are up to as part of their negotiations with the end customers. So one of the key observations and key learnings I can tell from my own experience too is like, and from what I have observed by being within Vendavo and almost like getting on a ton of different customer engagements, when clients take the ownership, usually the adoption rates are comparably low. Not that they don't have the capability, it's the firepower that you have to put behind the capabilities. Basically, the people part you have to engage in order to get that adoption, right? It's always, we ended up from a research standpoint around 5 to 10% adoption, versus when we got engaged into example of this customer, the adoption rate shot up all the way 50% and above. So that's a great move, right? This customer understood the importance of that change management aspect, business adoption aspect, and he invested upfront into that effort. So
sorry, finish that up. I got a couple of questions for you on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. The last piece of the puzzle is, right, yep, we got it. Now what next as part of the optimization? In order to derive and understand the value of this whole engagement, right? Can we monitor it? Can we track those benefits, right? So ongoing follow-ups with sophisticated reporting and visibility capabilities, like having a dashboard, having that communication, notification sent to the appropriate stakeholders in the business is the key to realizing the targeted benefits. And again, to highlight one of our products that Mitch brought up front, Margin Bridge Analyzer, the latest cloud solution that we just introduced is very good, which can slice and dice the data and give power to users to conduct that upfront price volume mix analysis on an ongoing basis and understand where exactly you're losing the margin, where exactly the dials that you have to tweak and make those changes on an ongoing basis, more proactively than reactively. So that's the whole story of this customer, how we engaged, where we started. And if you can see here, one thing I want to highlight, we just scratched the surface of $100 million out of $5 billion. And still we got like 5 million. Imagine as we progress with this customer, how much more. It's almost like 300 to 350% ROI that we can bring to the table for this customer, probably in the very first year itself. So I would pause there. Go ahead, Mitch.
You bet. I'm chomping at the bit here. I think you made some great points here. I really love how this is a great example of not having to boil the ocean, right? So many people get wound up saying, oh, we've got to, if we do this thing, it's a project, it's across everything all the time, and we'll never get it done. You worked with the prospect here, with the client here, and said, all right, everything you do is 5. All right, got it. And quickly got to the point, well, maybe this BU, this $1 billion is the area that we want to take a look at. And you boil it down even farther to say, you know, there's, out of that 1 billion, there's 100 that really has some things to work on, right? And you still delivered huge benefits out of that. So it's the expertise that you at Aiden, that the value consulting folks bring in terms of understanding what can be done, and how to get to it quickly. And it's also part of that change management aspect that you bring as well. This is a great example for that organization to say, there's real money in this. It's not about savings or efficiency. This is about effective pricing and making more money on things that you're already doing just because you have better processes. And proving this out with 5 million on 100, when you've got $1 billion and then 4 billion behind that, that would be an exciting situation for those folks. I'm sure they're very interested.
You bet, Mitch. That's the story behind the journey of this particular customer. And we have several other customers who are benefiting like that because of how we bring the value to the table as a Vendavo team, right? So if you go to the next slide, I just want to highlight the importance of some of the tools that we bring to the table. Can we go to the next slide, Mitch?
Yep. There you go.
Yep. So I still want to highlight some of the tools we brought to the table, right? The AI optimized pricing engine. In addition to we talked about a lot of story behind the value consulting effort. I did not talk too much about the tools that we used, right? The Vendavo specific AI powered optimization engine, right? The segmentation manager and price optimization engine has been extensively used to realize these outlined benefits, to identify and make them real for the customer, right? We were able to push it into the marketplace to the sales team's hands to be that can be executed very effectively. But this is a snapshot of our optimization engine. And if you go to the next screen, the outcome of the deal price guidance or the optimization engine is the floor target and stretch prices at lowest granular segment or customer product level possible to match the business needs. A very much user-friendly interface that helps customers understand each segment to the best possible granular level, maybe up to the SKU and customer level too, right? Sold to, ship to level. So this is again another snapshot of what we bring to the table, how you can move some of the opportunities like Aiden has mentioned, a low margin transactions or low margin prices back to at least move towards the target, and at least put some guidelines and gate reviews with respect to, okay, they can't go below a floor touch point. So as you can see that example on the screen, certainly I want to show that, talking about and moving on about the tools by themselves, how the tools themselves have helped us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's a couple of comments out there. I'm going to back up real quick to the segmentation one. We talk about our segmentation around it's driven by AI, right? That there's willingness to pay being teased out of that. But of course, in today's disruptive environment, historical data may not mean a whole lot, right? And you probably need to build up some transactional data before you would point at that as being characteristic. We can also, it's very easy for us to use administrative segmentation, traditional market segment, customer segmentation in the segmentation model to organize the pricing actions that then get you back to this, what is the guidance that you're going to give based on, let's just pull it back to something that's controllable, understandable, and quickly deployable, right? Quickly and agile in its being deployed out there in the field, so that everybody knows what the stepping stones are to move forward as we build up some background, some information in the new normal, in that transformation, in that journey along the way. Great stuff, Aiden. Great stuff, Ramesh. Really appreciate this.
Thank you.
Gents, I think what we're going to do now is go to some questions. And I see that we have a couple of questions coming up in the Q&A function on Zoom. So yeah, thanks folks for joining on that, asking questions on there. Ramesh, I'm going to ask you this question. To what extent are the insights and benefits derived from the tools versus Vendavo's consulting expertise? For example, where is the data derived from that led to the 19.5 euro benefit, 19.5 million euro benefit? Can you take a run at that?
I think Aiden.
Yeah, let me pick that because it was
sure.
It was the slides I presented, but it's yeah. So the answer is, it's a great question. By the way, the answer is both. So in this particular example, that 19.5 million was derived at the beginning of the project because we were looking for low-hanging fruit. Therefore, there was no system configured. There was no data integrated at that time. But what we did was we took the raw sales transaction data, we pumped it through our algorithms, and the four very basic, from a sophistication point of view, those basic hypotheses were crunched through our standard algorithms, and we provided that as a consultancy service. But what we did and what we do, we'll do later in that project, is to embed not just that that thinking, that process into the software, so that they are they're recurring playbooks that you can run periodically to check on margin leakage and to ensure you're maximizing all the opportunity, but also embed those practices in the pricing function of our customers, because it serves no one to, well, it would be great if people were willing to pay for us to come back week after week after week and keep running this for them. But we're not about outsourcing pricing. We're about embedding best practice processes as well as technology in our customers.
Exactly. Teaching someone to fish. And the follow-up question on that, Aidan, is if it's about Vendavo tools, which ones, or generically, which of the Vendavo capabilities did you use to come up with that, to drive that?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, that particular exercise, those playbooks can be built very easily in Profit Analyzer, our analytics, one of our analytics solutions. And like I said, they can be, it links not just to uncovering that opportunity and finding the numbers, but also translating that into an actionable plan. So down to the product customer level, so your end customers, down to that level of granularity, groups by sales rep, for example. So you can really target those areas of opportunity and not just wave at a 1 to 3% return, but we can talk about specific numbers, evidence-based and completely defendable.
Absolutely. And to your point, Aidan, it's not dependent on you guys being there to drive that. That's something that is embedded in the capabilities that stays with the customer for them to use on an ongoing basis. Yes. Absolutely.
Yep. And I want to tag on and add a little more to what Aidan and you are saying, Mitch. Like taking one example, right? If a customer has an issue with respect to limited price guidance and no system controls in place today, right? Identifying that and understanding the impact of that pain point with that particular customer is something, as a value consulting team, we will figure it out. We put it into based on the business context, talking to some of the stakeholders and business leaders. We get that information, try to make sure that information is tied back into the actual tool. So the software part of it, we identified it and we understood and sized that opportunity of fixing that particular issue. It's at a very high level, but we can much deeper, right? The second part of the equation is like, once you have identified the opportunity, how can you integrate that opportunity into more an actionable price point that can be executed in the marketplace? That's the second part of the equation. I guess that's where the product itself enables that capability, absorbing that, and we can define that strategy, whether it might be a competitive strategy, whether it might be some kind of a regional discount strategy that we need to use, highlight whatever that might be, the policy can be enforced with our product like deal price guidance and the price management capabilities, and with the and connect it to the CPQ process, so that as part of negotiation, like Aidan said, giving it into the hands of the salesperson, so that they can take that price, and as part of this negotiation, there are those now the system controls, and there is a much robust price guidance to the salesperson, and avoid this, giving that transparency at the tail end.
Building up those capabilities across that whole process.
Yeah, the product is that enabler, but we are the people who are identifying as part of our value consulting practice and making sure what that particular issue can, how much you can monetize that into a true value. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, next question, Aidan. I think this is going to be at you. If we have a regular management consulting firm we work with, how would Vendavo's Value Consulting interact with that firm? For example, if they're working with PwC or Deloitte or somebody like that.
Yeah, very common scenario, and yeah, completely fair question. We are not looking to, well, there are, as I showed on the the plan. There are a number of things that need to be done to ensure the outcome, the intended outcome, is achieved. And that business transformation work stream that sits alongside the solution implementation and all the data work, that work needs to be done. So we can offer own support and fill any gaps that might exist. But as long as someone is doing those, we are happy. So we've worked with the likes of Deloitte and PwC and other SIs that have managed the change management or the strategy piece. But often customers will look to take that on themselves as well, which is great. And as I've said before, we're looking to embed best practice. But if there is a gap and it puts the return on investment at risk, then we are more than capable to pick that up, and arguably best positioned just because we know our software, we know the practices, we know the B2B industry so well.
Spot on. The entire capability, that whole circular set of process is available from us. If there are characteristics or expertise that's embedded in the customer's organization, change management or particular skills like that, absolutely, those can be integrated to the efforts for sure. Much like our software, it's not monolithic. We have different pieces of solutions that focus on more of a pricing side, more of the sales side, more of the commercial excellence support side. So we work on where you want us to work on to the maximum benefit.
Yeah. Last point
please.
there, we are the strategic consulting team of Vendavo as a practice, who can always work side by side with any of the system integrators like Deloitte, McKinsey, and others. But this is our new offering. In the last 2 years, we have grown leaps and bounds, becoming like our own strategic practice. We are the strategic practice wing of Vendavo as a company. So we bring all of that expertise that you highlighted, Mitch, as you see. Yeah. So,
spot on. Hey, here's a really topical question. I'll let either one of you jump in on this. Are you able to deliver these services virtually in a COVID-19 type of world?
Ramesh, you want to take this one?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, yeah, totally. Because we were used to this kind of environment in terms of working virtually and still delivering all the value that it needs to be. And currently, as part of the process on several different engagements, we are proving that we are more robust enough than others in the marketplace, where we were able to work, like even our working model from the beginning was like 60 to probably 70% where we work virtually, some of our technical folks and others. And then there are a lot of savings to the customer as part of the process where we are avoiding the travel. So I think like that's a very apt question. And I think we were already proven to drive the value, even working virtually with our customers in the current setup, especially in this COVID season. Absolutely. And we will continue to do so and excel at it, coming up with more innovative ideas in order to deliver that value to our customers. Right now, we are already doing that as part of several different engagements, certainly. Yep.
Absolutely. We've on multiple occasions over the past few weeks, couple of months, provided very specific engagement plans that show our capabilities to make that happen on a virtual basis. And, we're used, like you said, Ramesh, we're used to working like that. Taking it all the way to virtual is not that hard for us. And it's really easy for us to explain how those specifics work with your team, as a customer, your team working virtually, how that works together. But totally doable. Ramesh, another question for you here. So somebody's been digging around on your LinkedIn here. You recently joined Vendavo. Based on your previous or prior to Vendavo experience and what you've already done at Vendavo, what are the biggest barriers to a project like this and how to overcome them?
So probably two things that comes to my mind, top of my head, even from my previous experience as well as the current exposure. internally seeing everything, how it goes in Vendavo itself. One is the first and foremost is the data, right? The data readiness always is a challenge when we look at the customers. But as long as we have that data available, I think it makes it easier. Now, cleaning up the data, now we have our own data transformation team within Vendavo. I see it, and we have that capability, very robust enough, and we can bring that capability to the table to enhance that process and speed up the data transformation cleansing exercise. That's number one. And probably number two is the people part of it, right? Whenever we come up with these opportunities, the sizing, telling this big business case of like, you are going to come up with $50 million versus $100 million, there will always be questions, right? The stakeholders always will be skeptical to accept that fact. Now they know it, that we can go after, but what is a better way, right? That was one of the challenges I see many times, not having that business case robust enough. And that's where we as a team from Vendavo can bring that to life. That's number one, to overcome it, right? To overcome that particular challenge and bringing that in front of the customer and getting that business buy-in is from the day one, we have to get involved from a value consulting team perspective and bring that to the forefront. And it's an iterative process. It's not like we can switch on and lights are on, right? It's not that simple, but it's an iterative process. Working with you as a customer, we will try to get that buy-in upfront, irrespective of what the scope will be. And we will tailor it to that level, which are truly actionable, and everybody agrees with it from a stakeholder standpoint, so that there is no backlash or there is no additional impacts like losing the market share or losing the competitive edge, and using the right strategy for that particular segment of customers to bring that value to the forefront and get the return on investment. And as we all know, at least from my experience as well as from Vendavo's exposure and experience, we do clearly see there is a 200 to 350% ROI in the first 12 months, which boils down to, in a conservative level, 3 to 5% margin increase to the bottom line, right? Operating profit. It directly tracks across price, across the cost buckets, including volume increase and the fixed cost. So those are the two areas I strongly feel that every customer needs to consider upfront from the beginning of the project and pay attention to some of those details. And if they can get us involved, certainly like we already outlined, we have seen historically there is a 50% more adoption increase rather than having just 5 to 10% and fade away.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, that's spot on. I totally agree with those 2 points there. I think we've got time for one more question, and I'm actually going to split this into two. First part to you, Aidan. What's the starting point and how hard is it to perform an assessment, if I'm interested?
An opportunity assessment. So like the one from the first example. So with all of the systems we talk about, data is always such a key component. Now, to execute the analysis I showed, actually, it's not as big a hurdle as you would see elsewhere in other projects, in other implementations, because we're looking at purely sales transaction data, and really we can do this with a very basic waterfall of invoice price. And if we want to go into any margin analysis, obviously we need some cost information, but we can do this with just a handful of price points, as long as the data set is covers the business that you look into, and we can agree on what we filter out, if we filter out returns and any credit notes and things like that, because we are broadly looking at a big picture at that level. Going into a deeper analysis, then the more attributes and more dimensions we can have in the transaction history, on the transaction record, the more insight we we can gain, the more we can cut and slice the data. So this analysis would typically take 2 weeks, and that's elapsed time. We're talking hours to crunch the numbers and to produce the results. The investment from our customer is typically the time to go through our assumptions, go through the filtering, and make sure they can stand by the recommendations, and that they are conservative. It's very important to us that these are achievable results, that we are putting numbers in front of executives that are achievable, and that don't cover key accounts or strategic moves or particularly sensitive products. Yeah, that we can action this, and this is an achievable number, because we stand by these numbers. This isn't consultancy that here's a nice big number, throw it over the fence, best of luck. These are numbers that we tie ourselves to, and that we want to achieve, and we will stay with our customers until those numbers are achieved.
But essentially, it's really, really surprisingly incredibly easy to size the prize with that assessment.
Sorry, yeah.
Move on
back to the original question. Yes.
Okay. And the tail end of this question to you, Ramesh, and this will be how we close out. When should I involve you guys? When should I get started on this?
So if you're an existing customer, it's not too late, right? You have to get us in right now immediately. And we can start working with you to figure out that assessment, conduct the assessment, and come up with the size of the price. Versus if you're a net new customer, you don't know Vendavo, or you're looking forward to pursue in the direction of getting a Vendavo as a solution for you guys to improve the margins and get that ROI, I think right now is the time, right? It has to be, if you see, even before you start an engagement, even before you start shopping around, I think the best and easiest way is to involve us, and we come in. We can certainly invest some of our time to get in front of you guys and size the price exercise, conduct that size the price exercise in no time. As long as the data is ready, I think it's a matter of, even just like Aidan said, we can bring it out, the results probably in a week's time, and show you this is what and this is how. And we can also conduct some high-level fit gap, which shows this is where we can show you the value in terms of which solutions that might be a best fit to enable some of those pain points that you might have highlighted as part of that discussion.
So the quick answer is yesterday is the time to start.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Hey, I want to say thank you very much for your time today. The work to pull some really great insights together for everybody on the webcast. A quick reminder, I want to remind everybody that we have just launched our latest solution, that's MBA. We did that last month. We talked about it during Wednesday's commercial excellence session, where we had a demo of that. That session will be on demand very soon. The offer here is 6 months free, and we've opened this offer up to everyone. Now, there are some qualifying requirements, so contact us so we can talk you through those. And you really need to move quickly on this. We're already signing up work on this with customers all over the world. Quantities on business consulting and services is limited, so act now. It's flexible causality capabilities. It's really all about enterprise level requirements, knowing that different BUs have different ways of looking at causality. We can support that so you have quick, reliable, repeatable, data-driven insights for action. So really exciting stuff there. Coming up, again, next week we're shifting to customer-only interactive sessions. On Monday, it's a deep dive into CPQ with Jordan Hahn and Jose Fontanez. On Tuesday, it's a deep dive into Vendavo Price Point with Carl Larson and Sjoerd van Kessel. And on Wednesday, Rob Verboom, Ben Blaney, and Kamal Sabnani will be walking us through analytics and optimization capabilities as part of our Commercial Excellence Cloud. So everyone, again, for everyone on the webcast, thanks for joining us. Thanks for your time today. Aidan, Ramesh, again, thank you for joining us today. Pleased to have you here. And looking forward to seeing everyone again. And until then, have a profitable day.
Thank you very much. Thanks all.